This week, the new Minister in charge of Housing and Urban Affairs directed a review of Floor Space Index or FSI and Floor Area Ratio or FAR norms in mega cities of India to ensure better utilization of scarce urban land resources in the context of rapid urbanization. Hello and welcome to Urban Reality. I'm Manisha Natarajan. Let's thrash out whether Indian cities are ready to go vertical. On the show, we will ask three important questions. Is higher FSI and FAR the answer to affordable housing in large cities? The assumption here is that the more supply of land will automatically bring more affordable housing stock into the market. Is this really the right assumption, or is there more to this simple math? Now, our second question is, are Indian cities ready to go vertical? Can you really build taller buildings and cram them with more people without building more roads, more transport, more drainage and more open spaces? Just picture Mumbai today and the chaos its citizens are living through right now. Our final question, how do you make a city's growth inclusive? How do you ensure that change in FSI norms doesn't go into the pockets of only the well-off and poor and low-income groups remain where they are, squeezed into unlivable slums? Let's welcome our panelists, Dr. M. Ramachandran, former Secretary, Urban Development Ministry, Kalpesh Mehta, Managing Partner, Tribeca, exclusive Indian representative of Trump Organization, Dr. PSN Rao, Head Center for Real Estate Studies, Delhi School of Architecture, and a well-respected urban planner. Also with us, JC Sharma, VC and MD, Shobha Limited from Bengaluru. So we've got three top cities of India covered because they are the ones which are probably facing the heat the most. Dr. Ramachandran, my first question to you is well-meaning move from the ministry, new FSI, FAR norms, or how do you even hope to accommodate the burgeoning population of these cities, especially people who are living a daily life of, on something as less as $1 a day?
You're absolutely right, but I think the word is the minister has asked for a review of the norms. So it does not mean automatically it will get implemented everywhere.
Okay.
So it's a question of where can it work, how can it work? And I suppose that word review has various connotations in the sense that one naturally has to see what could be the carrying capacity, what more can be done, what changes are possible. But I have a feeling it's more from the point of view of providing housing to the weaker sections of society.
Yes, he said so. It is for affordable housing. But my question is it that simple a math? That, you release more FSI, FAR, and therefore automatically you will have more affordable housing stock.
So the question is, when you don't have land, if people have to go to far-off places, and if they have to be somewhere near where their occupation and activities are, you have to think of only going vertical. It may have its disadvantages. I always recall the multilateral agency representatives who used to come with programs and projects and aid and all that. The first question they will ask is that, why don't you have multi-story structures in your cities?
Right.
That's what they are used to. But they are also used to multi-storied structures taking care of the basics as well.
Right.
So
let's come to that. But you're saying that if you want affordable housing stock, then going vertical, Dr. Ramachandran, you believe is the answer, isn't it? Okay, we'll come to it in terms of how we can do it. Would you agree with that opinion, Dr. Rao?
Yes and no, because see, going vertical is not the only solution. And when you said simple math, I think there's more to it than the simple math of FAR or FSI, because there's another term called density, number of persons per acre. So you can accommodate the same number of people in a very tall building or in short buildings. So it's actually increasing density rather than increasing height. So we need to do the trade-off. And the math is rather complex, and it's not as straightforward as
simple. All right, so you've raised that density point, and this is what we're going to talk about now. Our cities are dense. We keep saying Mumbai has a measly FSI of 1.33, while Shanghai has 8 and New York has 15. But you also need to keep in mind that Mumbai is packed with people. Its density is almost 33,000 people per square kilometer versus Shanghai at just 6,000 and New York at less than 2,000. Now, all of these people, if you're going to cram them up in taller buildings, as we go vertical, will need more supporting infrastructure. Kalpesh, come in here. I mean, you're doing Trump Towers in India, tall, amazing structures. But does that cross your mind? I mean, people are going to be buying houses worth crores of rupees, but when they get out, the infrastructure and the traffic congestion and of course, submerging during monsoons is the same problem they're going to face.
So I'd actually like to tackle the first question you'd asked, right? I think the ministry looking at land use norms in India, in Indian cities, is a welcome move, because India desperately needs that. But I think looking at purely FSI is probably too narrow a scope, because you have situations in other Indian cities where FSI is essentially unlimited, in Hyderabad, where you're not able to consume all of it. Or you have situations in Gurgaon where the new TOD policies come in, and in most locations, the construction cost of building that tall structure and the government premiums that you have to pay the government to acquire the additional FSI doesn't make sense from there's no profit left for the developer. So I think you need to look at a variety of different things. In Mumbai, you have 1.33 is just very, the island city that has that FSI. In the suburbs, essentially, you have 2.75 FSI. If you look at slums and slum projects, essentially, you have 6 FSI if you count, the rehab buildings that are being built. So in Mumbai, for example, additional FSI would be welcome, but there are other aspects that one needs to look at, such as the mandatory requirement of open spaces within a plot.
You've raised really interesting aspects of this conversation. The cost of this FAR or FSI, because essentially making high-rises is not cheap. Let's bring in Mr. Sharma into this conversation. Bangalore is facing its own challenges, congestion on roads, and being the largest employment generation city, it's growing, and growing at what pace? Mr. Sharma, what's your opinion? Higher FAR and FSI, is it a good move?
See, without any doubt, the kind of FSI which we are being permitted, when we look at from an Indian perspective, and especially on those cities where the land cost is very high, we have to admit that the Indian lawmakers, they must come to a consensus where what they are permitting versus what we should be getting, the higher FSI must be made compulsory at least in those 7 or 8 cities where the growth is maximum.
Right.
The 1.33, 1.5 or 2 FSI kind of a thing is not done, I think. Now, to what an extent it will be made possible vis-a-vis the affordable housing, it has got different connotations, because as you go high, the fire requirements and the other construction costs, it keeps rising up. But the technology today, with the SFORM and with the repeat constructions and the speed, somewhere you are making it up as well. So I would suggest that the government's initiative of going ahead with the higher FSI, at least in those 8 to 10 cities, is a prerequisite for us to ensure that the land cost comes down, and that benefit, to that extent, if we can pass on our affordable housing, it will be a great move going forward, where an optimization of both the higher FSI and the construction cost, say up to 60-meter height, we can work around and can offer, like we are doing in case of Bangalore, in a almost outer ring road, our affordable homes are being sold at 5,000 rupees a square feet due to this benefit of precast and the FSI being higher than what we would have used.
But Mr. Sharma, 5,000 rupees per square foot is really not affordable housing. I mean, that is probably a nomenclature which developers have come out with. It's mid-income housing, essentially for people who are living in slums of India or who are actually living on $1 a day. 5,000 rupees per square foot is absolutely not affordable. I mean, what are they going to get, Dr. Rao, in that? I mean, 5,000 rupees per square foot, which means 30 square meters, it'll still go way above the ticket price of 10 lakhs, which they could probably afford.
Absolutely, absolutely. See, I think somewhere in this entire discussion, there is a tendency to look at FSI or FAR as the panacea for all the housing ills, which is not true. So you need many more interventions in terms of subsidies, in terms of financing, in terms of cross subsidies, and so on and so forth, and technology as well. And densities, so that you are able to bring down the affordability. Ultimately, there is a minimum size. You can't go below a certain level. So you need at least 25 square meter, 30 square meter for a family of 5 to live in. So if that is the case, then how much it's going to cost, and what is it that we can give in a given set of parameters of FAR and setbacks and ground coverage and density and so on.
So it is not the panacea. I mean, I think that is the most important aspect to remember, that you can review 53 cities is required, or only 7 to 8 cities is required, Dr. Ramachandran? I mean, essentially, the number also 53 to me seems like a very large number. The biggest problems are in big, large cities like Mumbai, to begin with, Delhi, and of course, Bengaluru. And then you can go to Chennai, and you can go to Pune and Kolkata, so the next tier of cities. You've been in the Mantralaya for a long term. Tell me, is the ministry looking at it as a standalone problem? Look at the development plans that we have in this country. Mumbai DP 2014 to 2034. We are sitting in 2017, sir, and the Mumbai DP still hasn't seen the light of day. You have Delhi Master Plan, and that one is for 2021. It's just about 4 years from now, and land pooling hasn't gone through. So it's a much, much bigger issue. And FAR, FSI is a very tiny aspect of it.
Despite all this, I'm sure you would also agree that in most of these very large cities, vertical construction has been happening and is going on.
Correct.
It's a question of...
So you can't deny that.
It's a question of most people wanting to be where they want to be. That's one part of it. But I think we have to understand the intent of this, this direction or this guideline given. It's a question of it needs to be reviewed. And I would support it from the point of view of, I mean, as I said, there is not going to be land for those who need these houses somewhere in the middle or heart of the city.
Correct.
And Delhi experience shows that you cannot shift them to 20-25 kilometers away and ask them to take care of their daily... The $1 which you mentioned equally well applies there also. You cannot shift them to 25 kilometers away and say that you do what you want, you take a metro also.
Okay.
So I think it's a question of balancing these requirements. I don't think we should look at it from the point of view of all the 7 mega cities or all the 50 plus million plus population cities. All of them are straight away going to opt for this. It's a question of a gradual process. And we need also to understand, much as we would like to have proper sense of urban planning in our cities, these trends are there, especially if you don't mind my saying, governments like to play with this concept. That's what happened in cities like Mumbai.
I think the panel has pretty much is in consensus that, look, you have to take India's cities vertical. We're going to come back and really find out then how do you make affordable housing when you have state selling its own land at such or auctioning for the highest price. FSI still remains expensive, and infrastructure is again a big question mark. I mean, how do you integrate all of this? That's another part of urban reality today. So stay with us. We'll be back with it.